In September of 2017, Governor Jerry Brown gathered housing advocates from across the state to celebrate this huge housing package. There were 15 bills that we had fought for, and I was living on cloud nine because we had just elected State Senator Scott Wiener. We were mobilizing volunteers. We were being hailed as this new, vibrant, pro-housing movement. The YIMBY movement was on the rise. And on that day, Governor had an inspiring message for us, which was, don't get too pleased with yourself. None of this is going to work. He was kind of a downer, and he made the same point that the Attorney General made, is that there have been pro-housing bills on the books for years, for decades. We have had law after law passed that cities felt free to ignore. We have had commitments to housing justice that cities and towns and small, obscure commissions felt very comfortable saying, well, not this time. And so he was right, of course. There have been housing goals set and missed for literally decades. Where does change actually happen? It was happening off screen. It was happening later in the homes that we didn't build, in our homeless neighbors struggling on the streets, in the text messages I was getting from my friends about how they had to leave because the rent was too high, and so they didn't even want to have a phone call. They didn't want to have a coffee. They didn't want to talk about it. They just wanted to duck out because they felt like it was something they had done somehow. Somehow the housing shortage, this grinding pressure that we were putting on people in our communities, somehow the story they were telling themselves was that they had failed. Instead of the fact that we had failed them, California had failed them, our laws had failed them, and we were not going to let it happen anymore. But then a few months later, I was sitting in a community room in a church where low-income housing for seniors was being proposed, and I was really a little bit arrogantly hopeful that the new laws were going to matter. And Forest Hill Christian Community Church, they wanted to build a few hundred units, and as always happened, the community nearby had concerns. And I listened to homeowner after homeowner voice their fears. Their fears about who they thought was going to move into their neighborhood. They had words that are too ugly to repeat here tonight. The othering that takes place, their very particular no became a snowflake in the avalanche of no's that was go someplace else. You are not welcome here. And they painted this nightmare of destruction for their community. They said things that are way too ugly to be repeated. And you know these words. If you've been at a hearing, you have heard these people with their not-so-veiled racism and their definitely not veiled classism, talking about the imaginary person that they are worried about coming into their community and not realizing that they are describing their own children. Because that is what happens when you deny housing. You deny opportunity for the person you're afraid of. You deny it for your children. You deny it for your teacher. You deny it for all of the people who make your community work because you are afraid of someone coming into your community and having to have the audacity to become your neighbor. And somehow our process had created this belief in them that they had a right to deny others opportunity. They believed that these other people in their minds were barely human. If they were allowed in, who knows what could happen? Who knows what could happen? If we let people in, if we truly integrated our society, if we housed every single person, if we lived next door to one another, if we shopped at the same stores and we ate at one another's restaurants and our kids went to the same schools with teachers who were able to afford the rent in the neighborhood, and I could just walk down the block to my local coffee shop, and my barista was only working one job to put themselves through school and didn't have that haunted look in their eyes that happens when you commute 3 hours to a job that just doesn't pay the rent. We could have a society where people genuinely thrived if we could just make room for one another. If we can just dream a little bit bigger. If we can decide that the chaos and vibrancy of one another's company is worth more than fucking free parking. People are wonderful. That's what this gets down to. Do you believe that people are wonderful? That if we recognize that people joining our communities costs us nothing but our fear, if we can work together to build cities and towns that we are endlessly proud of, bustling and thriving neighborhoods, all the better because we share them without fear. This year, I sat again in the community room at the church in Forest Hill with the pastor who has tried more than 3 times to build housing. 3 times she has tried to welcome the stranger, and she is undeterred. Thanks to new legislation, thanks to the YIMBY movement showing up over and bigger for her, thanks to the power of legal enforcement, thanks to our Attorney General, who is frickin' spine, thanks to every single member here who has showed up and who has raised their voice to housing, who has changed the discourse around housing, who has made her feel proud of what she is trying to do. Thanks to the brave folks at the affordable housing nonprofit Mission Housing. She's ready to try again. And we will bring more than 150 homes to Forest Hill. And my message for you all is that it is not hope that it is stronger than fear. It is not hope that is stronger than fear. It is determination. We are the embodiment of the determination to solve this problem. YIMBY Action is here building the infrastructure to make sure that you all keep showing up with signs, with t-shirts, with talking points, and sometimes with a lawyer. Because we are here to fight until we win. Those same voices of fear and hostility, they will come out. But we will too. And I wish I could tell you that change is easy. That when we pass a law, a switch is flipped in somewhere and we get to declare victory and go home. Because we had some fantastic legislative victories this year. But change does not happen only with the stroke of a pen. Change happens when policymakers know that people will show up and back them up over and over again. And so we have to be bigger. We have to be a powerful, engaged, organized force to be reckoned with. We have to show up at every level of government, demonstrating that the pro-housing movement is deep and powerful and broad and bigger every year. YIMBY Action has grown to more than 50 chapters across the country this year. And I think in January we could hit 60. And we're able to do it because of you. Because of your donations, because of your work, because of your op-eds, because of your membership growth events, because you have the determination to make sure that we keep showing up day after day, year after year, until every single person is housed. So I want to thank you all for demonstrating that we are determined and we are going to build this movement until we can go work on something else, because we are going to keep solving the problems in America. Thank you.